It's time for Legends of Success with John Resnick. Each week, John presents the most original success stories in America. Passionate and inspiring stories from some of the most innovative and successful entrepreneurs alive today. This is Legends of Success. Here's John Resnick.
And welcome to today's edition of Legends of Success. This is America's program that introduces you to our country's outstanding entrepreneurs, CEOs, and members of the Forbes 400 list, and where they share with you their journeys of overcoming obstacles and setbacks to make it to the top. I'm John Resnick, and I thank you for sharing part of your day with us as we welcome you, or we come to you, today from the studios of WHJJ AM 920 in Providence, Rhode Island. Building on a rich history of more than 130 years, integrity and excellence have been the hallmarks of Gilbane Building Company. A family-owned business that is now into its fourth generation, Gilbane clearly set many of the benchmarks found in today's highly competitive construction and real estate development industry. From humble beginnings more than 130 years ago, to creating some of our country's most recognizable public projects, this organization and their employees have figured out a winning formula. Let's find out exactly how they do it as we visit with our guest, William Gilbane Jr., the president and COO of Gilbane Building Company. Bill, welcome to Legends of Success.
Thank you, John. Pleasure to be here.
Well, I am really proud to be with you. What an incredible story you folks have. 4 generations. Last time I was here at WHJJ, I was here, I think, with a mutual friend of ours, a gentleman by the name of Alan Hassenfeld from Hasbro.
Yes, a classmate of mine growing up, and a continued friendship that's lasted for some 45, 50 years, believe it or not.
Yeah, I am. And he said to send you his best. Obviously, I think he's in a board or some kind of a meeting today. He's going to get together with us. And the other thing is, when I drove in, coming into Providence and driving around, I was so impressed because one of the things that I really complimented Alan on and his team and his employees and the whole company is the Hasbro Children's Hospital, which is a wonderful contribution. And then he says, well, ask Bill about it because they built it.
It was a great project, and one of the most memorable projects that I personally have ever been involved with.
Now, why is that, Bill?
Well, the obsolescence of the Potter building that had been built at the turn of the century, and it was just so obsolete and outdated. And Dr. Foreman, who headed up at the time the Children's Hospital, brought all of us in prior to the start of construction to actually understand the horrible conditions, the antiquated conditions of the existing building, and understand the treatments and the severity of illness that was in that old building.
Wow.
Before any contractor got on that job, subcontractor of ours, we took them through those buildings, and we collectively let them know that there'd be no substitution of any material, that there would be no shortage of manpower, that every day we got that job done sooner could save some young person's life.
Oh, man.
So we had a mission. It was building more than a building.
Wow. You know, it's amazing. So often we take things for granted, especially when you see these children's hospitals, and now the personal, intimate story about the Hasbro Children's Hospital, and there's such great stories behind things we often take for granted, aren't there, Bill?
They really are.
You know, one of the things I want to talk about and have you share with us before we go back and find out where all this came from, Gilbane has always set a mark and distinction of differentiation. And for my research, I went back and I checked your history. I know you went to Brown University, you studied Crosby, et cetera. You've always been insanely committed to doing the right thing with excellence and going that extra mile. And I'm not just using those as words. I mean, it's true with Gilbane. You're here 4 generations. You didn't do it by accident.
No, I think there's an interesting culture within our company and organization. And clearly, I think it has started right back with my great-grandfather.
Mm-hmm.
My great-grandfather and a professor at Brown University actually designed and developed the first electric floor sanding machine.
Wow.
clearly in New England and maybe in the country. We don't know. We didn't patent it.
I was just going to ask you, right?
No, but it was intended to, instead of hand finish the floors, we could do them more professionally, less expensively. It was always a dedication to try and improve the process. And it started right back when we started building buildings. And there's a lot of ingenuity in how to expedite schedule, do things more efficiently and cost effectively. So I think there's a lot of inherent challenges on every job. So people are that type.
What I'm hearing and what I'm seeing, and it's a rare combination, there are some businesses that have wonderful creativity.
Yes.
There are some businesses that lack creativity but have excellent execution. Some have culture, some don't. But it seems with three of the hallmarks, culture, execution, and creativity, and somehow pulling that all together. Because you and I discussed, we have a good mutual friend, John Davis, who runs the family business studies at Harvard. You've worked with him. I've worked with John. Yes. I'm an estate planner. And John has always talked about the statistics. Only 1/3 of all family businesses survive to the second generation. Less than 12 or 15% to the grandkids. I mean, you get into the fourth generation, you're lucky if 5% are surviving. So what we're going to do is let's paint a picture today of Gilbane, just a snapshot overview. So the listeners on the West Coast or the Midwest, well, I know you have 28 offices, but those who don't know your name, they can see a snapshot. And so tell me, how big is the company, where you spread out, and things like that?
Today, the company is actively working in 36 states. We have 32 offices around the United States, as far away as the West Coast in San Diego and San Jose and Phoenix. We have a lot of offices on the East Coast, right down from Maine to Jacksonville, Florida. And we have significant presence in the Midwest, in the central region, Cleveland, Columbus, Chicago. So there are some voids in our geography, but we're only 135 years old, so we have time to fill those voids.
So it took you so long.
And we're ranked in the top 5 or 6 construction managers in the United States.
You're also with Forbes, I believe, number 130 on the largest privately held businesses in America. And I think with Family Business Magazine, where I contribute an article, we'll have to get you back in there. I contribute an article. Family Business ranks you, I think, number 64, the largest family-owned businesses in America, too.
Yeah, that's amazing. It's amazing.
Well, it's amazing when you think of where you come from. I think volume, if you don't mind me, I think it's kind of public knowledge. Your revenue.
Yes.
$3.5 billion a year?
Yes.
It's unbelievable. 2,000 employees. I mean, this is a huge, huge company. And just for a moment, you have maybe 4 business sectors that you really focus on the most. And what are they, Bill?
Our largest is higher education. We're currently working on over 60 college campuses around the United States. Healthcare is nip and tuck with that. And we have approximately 70 to 75 projects in healthcare, all across the country.
Wow.
We K through 12 school program is very large for us. In some cases, we manage the whole program for like the city of New Haven, Syracuse, Cleveland schools. Then we have individual projects, smaller projects.
And these are all going on simultaneously.
Yes.
Which is just unbelievable. And folks, when we get back, we're going to take a break here for a second. I've always said that really the second most difficult thing to do in an industry is become number one or lead that industry. But clearly the single most difficult challenge is to sustain that leadership. We've got a history here of 4 generations where that's been done. We're going to ask our guest today, Bill Gilbane Jr., the president and COO of Gilbane Building Company. How do they differentiate? What's the secret? I don't care if you're in the construction business, the retail business, or the real. It doesn't matter. You're going to learn some lessons today that Bill is kind enough to impart with us, and we hope it makes a difference in your life. You're listening to Legends of Success. I'm John Resnick with Bill Gilbane, coming to you the courtesy of 920 AM WHJJ in Providence, Rhode Island. Be right back.
One-on-one conversation with the most innovative and successful entrepreneurs and business people alive today. This is Legends of Success.
Hi, this is Steve Forbes of Forbes Magazine. When you want to learn who America's most successful people are, read our Forbes 400 list. When you want to hear firsthand how they got there, listen to Legends of Success with John Resnick. Legends of Success is one of the most original radio programs in years. Legends of Success with John Resnick.
We're back on Legends of Success. Today we're visiting with Bill Gilbane Jr., the President and COO, Chief Operating Officer of Gilbane Building Company in Providence, Rhode Island. Gilbane is truly one of America's leading construction and real estate development companies today, and certainly one of the most successful family-owned businesses. And speaking of family-owned businesses, folks, if you get a chance, check out the current issue of Family Business Magazine. Steve Forbes and I, my friend Steve, I did an interview with him, and he shares a behind-the-scenes story of the entire Forbes family business that has never been on the air. Steve's been on several times, as you know, but this was one exclusively for Family Business Magazine, and we appreciate Steve's friendship in doing so. Hey, before we took a break, we're visiting with Bill, and, things change. Things are always rapidly changing, and I found out that my notes should have changed. I stated, Bill, that the Gilbane family is in fourth generation, which the odds are almost impossible to reach fourth generation, and you kindly corrected me to straighten me out here.
Yes, I'm proud to tell you that we have 4 very powerful, very capable, and competent fifth generation contributing to Gilbane's success and growth right now.
Yeah, that's amazing. And how old are these folks, and what kind of roles?
The oldest is 34,
mm-hmm.
And he runs our northern New England operations.
Mm-hmm.
So he's a principal of the company.
Wow.
His name is Paul Choquette.
Mm-hmm.
My son, Bill, works in our New York City office and has just been project manager on the New Jersey Devils arena that we built. And is now currently in business development in New York City and aspires to run that New York office someday. Dan Gilbane, my cousin Tom's boy, is down in Texas with our development company and doing very, very well. Of course, the nature of the development business is a challenge today, but he'll learn some things with that. And he's a Harvard Business School graduate and doing very well. My cousin Paul's daughter, Denise, is one of our top legal counsels, and she contributes to every project we do. So she's doing fabulous and loves the business.
How many total family members? Immediate cousins, the whole bit. Gilbane, Choquette, the whole bit. Because your chairman is Paul, and that must you're just referring to Paul's son a second ago, right?
Yes.
Okay.
My guess, and I should know this number, it's about 125.
125.
We have a family council that when we get together. Now, some of those are through marriage, so I've got to be careful in my number.
Yeah, right.
But there's a good 100 solid genes, Gilbane genes, that have been passed down.
Let me ask you this, and if it's too personal, just say, John, none of your business. You're a privately held company. Do you have rules for ownership? Can anyone in the family get shares of ownership in this business? Or is there a criteria?
No, there is no criteria. And the rules for ownership follow linear lines of the families. We ensure that everyone's allowed to pass their stocks within their family. It's interesting. A couple of the things we've done, so there's no limit to the stock ownership.
Right.
We have set up A shares and B shares, and they've been set up for years. And the A shares are put into a voting trust so that the company management and the board of directors can run the company efficiently and effectively.
That's good. Yeah.
So our friend John Davis at Harvard Business School was very helpful in helping us have the vision of ownership. So we've followed those guidelines. We have rules legacy rules. Everyone, before they can come to work for the company, family member has to go work 3 years somewhere else.
Same industry or anywhere else?
Anywhere else. Anywhere else. We don't want to discriminate. Our business has so many opportunities.
Oh, sure.
We can take teachers, we can take technology people, finance people. Haven't figured a way to take a doctor yet. But,
well, you may have on site or in-house doctor. I mean, you've got everything. But going back to that ownership, and I asked Steve Forbes this. I'll ask you the same question. You got a lot of family members. Do you ever have major conflicts, and is there a process for resolving conflict? There's got to be disagreements. 100 and some owners.
Well, we've had one disagreement in our that I'm aware of in 135 years.
One major. There's always little.
Yeah, well, I don't consider the others. I consider the others healthy discussion and consensus. We've never had votes. We've always been able to see that the right thing to do is the right thing to do.
Sure.
We have a family council structure, and we have 7 non-Gilbane non-Gilbane working family. They work, but they don't work at Gilbane, who represent the 70 shareholders. We currently have 70 shareholders.
Okay.
And they work on functions, pulling the family together. You know the famous circle between business and family, how they overlap?
Yeah, the 3 circles. It's John Davis's
Generation to Generation.
Sure, great book.
Well, we follow it. And we have this event. Our next event is November 22nd. And this is, I'd love to share this with you, John. My dad, if he was alive, would be 100 years old on November 22nd.
Wow.
My dad and my uncle were All-American football players at Brown University in 1932. And if they had won their last game, they were going to the Rose Bowl.
Wow.
Brown was actually the first team ever to play in the Rose Bowl. So here we are, many, many years later, and we're celebrating his birthday when he's not here. There'll be 100 Gilbanes at the game, all wearing Tom and Bill's football jerseys from Brown University, replicas.
That's awesome.
And celebrating his 100th birthday. And hopefully Brown beats Columbia that day for the Ivy League Championship, and we'll be happy people.
You're going to have 100 disappointed people if they don't.
That's right.
Oh, that's just great. And, and what I looked at here, and now this is for the business owners, that's a nice, heartfelt story of building family culture. You really have an edge as a family business, don't you?
Oh, big edge.
What is that? What's the distinctive edge?
Well, the values that the company established from its beginnings, and there are 6 basic values: integrity, dedication to excellence, loyalty, discipline, tough-mindedness. Those values permeate the way we do our business, how we measure success. They're consistent. 2,000 people at Gilbane know if they get up and live those values, we will execute our work, we will make customers happy, and profit will become a byproduct of the 6 values. Okay? It's not about setting financial goals and changing the value proposition to get to them. Okay? We live the values, and the byproduct is that. We can invest long term. When you're 135 years old, we can invest in Gilbane University, that public companies, and a lot of our competition are publicly traded, foreign owned, and they're investments for somebody. Well, to quote John Davis, if you think your ownership in Gilbane's an investment, you ought to sell it. It's a legacy.
Wonderful.
And the owners of Gilbane truly believe that it is they're blessed with it.
This is a family heirloom that each generation continues to polish to pass to the others.
Exactly. And not tarnish it.
And not tarnish it, and not cash in, and not,
right.
Any day, so many of our guests, Bill, have said, if you're in the business for money first, profit, look, we all want to make a good living, but if your sole purpose of going into business just to make money, you won't last. You can't last.
No, you can't. And money is an important element of our success. I don't want you to, our ability to invest in training and invest in technology. The reason we're number one in our industry in technology has to do with some money.
Well, you can't ignore $3.5 billion a year.
No.
Well, that's a little bit of money. Actually, when we get back here, I'm going to ask you a couple other things. You mentioned these 6 principles. These are your leadership, your value principles you had for 5 generations and going.
Yes.
When we get back, I'm going to ask you, how do you actually have the team of 2,000 buy in and live those principles? Think about that for a moment, if you will. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm John Resnick. You're listening to Legends of Success. We are in the studios of 920 AM WHJJ in Providence, Rhode Island today, visiting with Bill Gilbane Jr., the President and Chief Operating Officer of the 135-year-old, 5th generation, $3.5 billion revenue a year company by the name of Gilbane Building Company. We'll be back right after this.
Look for John Resnick and Legends of Success in Family Business Magazine. Visit FamilyBusinessMagazine.com and LegendsOfSuccess.com for more information. Telling their stories across America, from Maine to Hawaii, from Washington State to Florida. These are America's greatest success stories. Legends of Success with John Resnick.
We're back on Legends of Success. I'm John Resnick, and we're sitting here in Providence, Rhode Island, the studios of 920 AM WHJJ with Bill Gilbane Jr., the President and Chief Operating Officer of Gilbane Building Company, a 5th-generation family-owned business. 2,000 employees, 30-some branch offices throughout America, and I believe Puerto Rico.
Yes.
And one in Puerto Rico. And you have 6 core principles that you had mentioned earlier. Repeat those again, if you would, please, and then tell me, how do you get all the stakeholders, all the employees on board to live, eat, breathe, and sleep these points, Bill?
We call them our core values, John, and they are integrity, dedication to excellence, tough-mindedness, discipline, loyalty, and teamwork. We define them, and we define them early on. I teach a class that every employee at Gilbane takes.
You're the President and Chief Operating Officer, and you're teaching classes.
I teach a class on the history and the core values and customer satisfaction and what they mean. Just yesterday, we had 60 new employees come into Providence from all over the country. And the first course they take is my course. I explain the history, how the core values were established. A lot of them were through tough times this company went through. So they understand why we have these values. And then we apply them to the job. We take a value and we explain to them that it is the way we do business. What is dedication excellence? Well, dedication excellence is when you're in a hurry finishing a job, and you go to close the ceiling up, and there's something that isn't right there, the maintenance people will have to encounter later on, you don't put the ceiling up.
Isn't that common sense?
It's common sense, but that dedication to excellence translated right into a construction activity lets that person know that when I get in that situation, my company will not put the ceiling up. So if I hold the job up for a couple of hours, I do it.
Sure.
Because I'm not going to compromise my core value. So we teach that. We constantly reinforce it. We have recognition and awards for our core values. They just emanate. And everyone has a card in their wallet that represents our core values and has a picture of my father and uncle on it. So it's something that's very ingrained in who Gilbane is.
But it's still, Bill, it's still got to be an awesome challenge. When Oz Nelson, the former chairman of UPS, was with us on this show a while back, I had asked him, I said, I've never seen a UPS driver that I could ever recall, or even at the counters, anywhere you run into UPS, with all the, I guess they must have over 100,000 employees, worldwide. They always have such a positive attitude. There's a culture, and I don't know how they get everybody to buy into it. How do you actually get everyone to buy in and have that positive attitude for the customer?
Well, a couple of things. Number one, I always believe in life, people bring you up or bring you down. Right. Okay?
Absolutely.
There's just no staying the same. So if you surround yourself with the right people, you're a better person yourself. Okay? At Gilbane, this year we will hire 110 new college graduates, either in undergraduate or master's degrees, that will join the Gilbane team. We have brought all of them on in their sophomore, junior years as interns. We've been able to see what their values are, what their work ethic is. They've been able to examine whether Gilbane is the right culture and environment for them. So all of a sudden, we take these 110 a year into our community, and they're the right people. Think of the energy and excitement they bring to people that have been around a while.
How quick do you eliminate the ones that don't work out?
We have next to no turnover in that 110. Now,
well, that's incredible.
But a great observation for business. Our turnover, as low as it is all in the 39 to 49-year-old. We measure all our turnover, and it's in that age group.
Why?
And it's in the first 2 to 3 years of employment with Gilbane.
Why is that?
We hire journeymen who have had more than one job typically.
Sure.
They may have some construction knowledge and experience that is attractive to us, but their value proposition is different, okay? They've been trained to maybe put that ceiling up because they need to get it done.
And get out of there.
Right. They come here and I can't say every one of them is, we didn't want them here. They realized this was not the right place for them. So if you're a company trying to go get people in their mid-40s from other companies and thinking you're building a business, you're making a huge mistake.
Maybe too late. Yeah, absolutely.
And there are some great exceptions to what I just said.
Well, that's interesting. You have, I believe, a third of your associates are 55 and older. Is that correct?
It's down to 25, thank God. 25%.
Down to 25.
Yeah.
Okay. Because I was going to say that would be a challenge then of some kind of management succession, because you would think a lot of those folks are in management positions. Would that be a challenge for succession planning?
It is a challenge. But like I say, there's exceptions to what 50% of that turnover in the first 3 years.
Right.
Of all our turnover is in the first 3 years. So there's another 50% that do very well at the company. They've come from maybe another family business of the same values. Okay,
gotcha.
And we've been blessed. We're not inbred. Not everyone is a Gilbane out of college.
Sure, I understand.
And we've got, in fact, in some ways, it's exciting to bring some people in that have worked for some wonderful companies, family businesses, who bring some new perspective on some of the things we're doing.
Absolutely. Even the Estee Lauder family, we had Leonard and Evelyn and William, who I believe William, I don't know if he's still there anymore now. I haven't talked to them in a while. But even William said he went to work for Macy's before his family let him come work there. Jim Perdue he just left the family business for, I think, 8 years before he came back.
Yes.
People need to establish themselves as an independent individual first, or their own self, and then see what they can contribute when they come back. God, there's so many things I want to ask you here today, Bill. We got to take a break coming up. One of the things I want to ask you, which is, and we're off our format, when we get back, I want to ask you about the origins of this company and how it started, and get a little bit of history so our listeners can really appreciate where you've come from and how you got to 5 generations, $3.5 billion, 30-some offices, and really the leader in the construction and real estate development industry today. Ladies and gentlemen, we are on Legends of Success with Bill Gilbane Jr. We'll be back right after this. We're back on Legends of Success, having just a wonderful visit today with Bill Gilbane Jr., the President and Chief Operating Officer of Gilbane Building Company. We're about to get into history in a moment, but I just wanted to mention a few remarkable projects that this family business has done. In Washington, D.C., the Vietnam Veterans Memorial, the World War II Memorial. In Chicago, the O'Hare International Airport, Terminal 5, I think they redid the whole thing or built the Capitol Visitor Center in Washington. Huge, 580,000 square feet project. Which is probably the largest in the Capitol's 200-plus years in history. And one of my favorites, the Muhammad Ali Museum down in Louisville, Kentucky, in my opinion, the all-time greatest athlete ever.
Oh, I would say so.
Let's go back. I said we changed our format a bit. I've been so fascinating visiting with you, I forgot to go back in history. Take me back, Gilbane, just for a moment. take me back to 1873 where it all began, and just give us a couple mileposts of how this family business started, Bill.
Well, the Gilbane family actually started in County Leitrim Island, and in the famous Irish famine between 1845 and 1850, my great-grandfather, at the age of 3, fled with his mother and father from Ireland, came across on those coffin ships, and landed in this country. At the age of, in 1873, he was working as a carpenter for a well-recognized home builder in Providence. Mm-hmm. The owner, unfortunately, had a heart attack and died, and my great-grandfather, as the lead carpenter, finished the buildings and started William Gilbane Contractor and Builder in 1873. And subsequent, his son took over during the Depression. The company fought through the Depression to stay alive. Mm-hmm. And then my father and uncle, the third generation in the 30s, mm-hmm. really came on and really brought the company took us out of the little state of Rhode Island and had us start doing jobs other places.
Sure.
And our history has a lot to do with who we are. When you think about the period of time where the famous slogan, Irish need not apply, really affected my father and uncle's thoughts. People gave them a chance. Gilbane got a chance to become the company it is today. Some of those things translate right back to things we do, scholarship programs, the interest in a diverse workforce. We love the underprivileged. We love to give people a chance to reach their full potential in the company. Mm. And I, if I can share with you a great story that means a lot to us, is we have a scholarship program here in Rhode Island, and every year we select a young man or woman who parents are not with them, live with a grandparent, single parent, very difficult minority situation. And we give them a scholarship to a local Catholic school. Well, our first one ended up being a phenomenal football player. We do ask them to be athletes because my father and uncle were great athletes. And this young man became the number 1 football player in the state of Rhode Island. And he actually received the Gilbane Award, which is annually given to the best high school football player in the state. Mm. He then went on to play for the North team in the North-South game. And my dad was captain of the North team in the North-South game.
Oh, wow.
The one thing he's done that my dad didn't do, probably could have but didn't, he plays for the Green Bay Packers. And he returns kicks. His name is Will Blackman.
Sure.
Number 27.
Yeah, so, sure. Absolutely. What a small world.
But the feeling that we have in our company for our opportunities to give back is a very important thing to us.
And that's so important. And a lot of people who don't understand big business, and one of the many reasons I started this show was not only to establish, and folks listening out there, young students, entrepreneurs having a tough time, here's a role model for you. Here's a man that says, we didn't go in it for the money. Sure, everybody wants to make money, but if that's not the sole purpose, it can't be the sole purpose is just profit. And here's an example of a great American role model family and organization that says we're going to make a difference in the world. And isn't that truly what big business should be about? Many family businesses are about, but unfortunately sometimes public companies don't have that culture due to the quarterly stock reports and public shareholders creating demand that may not just allow that give back. And I'm not knocking public companies, but they don't seem to have the soul and heart of some of these private family-owned companies.
Well, we're all human. We all have human nature. And I think the incentive programs and the financial rewards these people receive are all aligned with the almighty dollar.
Right.
We judge success differently. And the money being a byproduct of it takes a lot of pressure off. You can invest in things. You can, when someone's sick or hurt or a family needs something, you can not worry about the money.
All right.
It really is easier.
Well, that you get in a privately held business with people that care. Now, on the flip side, maybe it sounds like that's too harsh on some of the good public companies out there, and I didn't mean to to cast a wide brush over everybody. Because, you take somebody like Jack Welch. When Jack went in, they called him Neutron Jack. Jack's been on the show. And when he had to fire all those people, it wasn't because he was mean. He had a public company. That was his direction. And they shouldn't have been hired to begin with because it was overhiring and it just created a big glut. But you keep things lean, and I hate to say mean, but tight in that family business. But you reward people for performance, do you not?
Oh, definitely. We're very competitive people. I mean, the construction industry is very competitive. Continuous improvement, excellent. We measure ourselves against every public construction company.
Is there an 8-point criteria that you have somewhere that I remember my thinking, or is that not?
No, but we have benchmarks that we measure ourselves, and one is a profitability one, but one of probably 15.
Sure.
But we don't want to be a company that does all these other good things, but doesn't have the financial strength. We need to have financial strength to be bonded. Mm-hmm. To build a $500 or $600 million job, you have to have some financial strength,
especially this day and age.
Yes. So we have to pay attention to profit. I don't want people to think that we don't.
Yeah, you're not a 501c3.
No, but we get to the profit by doing the other things.
I understand.
That's
some people think by doing all those other things, Bill, it's just too expensive to do that in business. You just can't do those things. Why don't you straighten the record out for that?
It's just the opposite. When you do things right the first time, the profitability is doubled, is twofold. I mean, everyone knows this, I think. And when you hire the wrong people and you don't do the right checking on references and look at the values the person have and you bring them in, you spend 90% of your time dealing with one problematic person instead of having everyone working in the same direction.
You talk about how big you folks have grown to. You're doing $3.5 billion in revenue a year. Why don't you just sell out? I mean, you guys could cash in for billions, or why don't you just sell the business out and have a merry time?
Well, every one of the Gilbanes would tell you the same thing. We were given the legacy of this company, which I've hopefully described today. Money can't overcome that obligation to continue providing good places for people and families to work. It isn't.
It's not about the money.
It isn't about the money.
You're comfortable. I hear this time. I throw that same question to all my guests.
I don't think I'd want my children to get too much money. I mean, I think we all have to.
What would you do with it? What would you do with the money? Right. You'd end up being bored anyway, probably. You're having too much fun. I think you'd ruin
some next generation's lives.
Oh, my Lord, yes. Yeah. You really have to be a good steward with money because you can really spoil people. I know so well. I mean, take Warren Buffett. I think he says he's going to leave as much for his kids to do what they want, but not as much that they don't do anything. Something like that.
But what a great message for all of us.
Oh, it's so important.
Yeah.
What is your greatest challenge going forward with Gilbane in this economy as you look forward, and I call it the 1, 3, and 5 year goals? What's the greatest challenge?
Well, the 1 year goal is to see the fallout of the financing of the projects that are upcoming for us. Mm-hmm. We have plenty of work lined up in front of us. Will they all be funded timely and flow? So that's a short-term issue for us. The longer-term issue is always people, developing our people, succession. We believe very strongly that our own people, we don't hire people to come in and run business units. We want to develop all our own.
Right.
And our people are the very best in the business,
mm-hmm.
so there's always people trying to hire them. And we have very low turnover, so we don't lose them. But I would say my focus, and as I get older, is really the succession to make sure the next generation of leadership at Gilbane carry on the values that have been instilled so far.
And to add to that, at one point, one of the greatest accomplishments you shared with me last time I was visiting with you was that we used to have strict 100% family control making all the decisions. You got over that hurdle, didn't you?
Oh, wonderfully.
That was tough, though, wasn't it?
Well, again, my father and uncle came up in the Depression, and they had to make every decision, or the company, and they made decisions when the company's net worth was negative.
Yeah, right.
So they kept the company alive. Our generations had the luxury to start giving it up a little bit, and we all have different personalities. So
Yeah, sure.
I may be able to give up more or less than my cousin Tom, or my cousin Paul, but jointly we've really allowed people to grow in our company, and they run their own businesses.
Bringing in non-family members to be part of the decision process, I'll bet, has added a lot of value, insight, and growth. Am I correct?
Huge.
Huge.
Yeah.
You encourage that from the workforce? You have ideas, bring them to us. We want to know about them, because really your greatest ideas come from the folks out in the field. They have to.
Yeah, in fact, we're just in the middle of an engagement survey where we and the company we hired just can't get over, because we have 80-some-odd% of our employees have filled out the survey. They never see this.
I heard you guys are survey crazy. 600, 800 surveys going on. I mean,
from our customers and architects, yes.
Yeah, and you really press them. You want that feedback. How can you do better?
Oh, we're never content. Yeah. We're the Bill Belichick's of the construction industry.
Isn't it true, though, as A-type charging entrepreneurs, we're never satisfied? Maybe it's a little bit of sickness that we know we need. But, the day you're satisfied, really satisfied, and you think you've made it, you become complacent. When you become complacent, you're in trouble.
Yeah, and it's no fun anymore.
No, it is no fun. Our last piece of, we're running out of time. What's, in 60 seconds or less, hate to hold you to that, the greatest piece of advice you can give young entrepreneurs and students looking to enter the work world?
To seek employment in an environment that matches your own values, to really test the companies you're looking at and see what their long-term vision is. I think it's important to me that you match yourself with the company.
Any other parting words you have for us? Words of wisdom, Bill Gilbane Jr.
No, John, thanks. This has been a pleasure, a real opportunity to think about Gilbane.
Wow.
That's great.
And I want to thank you so much for all this personal message. I mean, where else are they going to get the stories? How do the people get a chance to meet the Bill Gilbanes of the world? And I just want to thank you. You're a busy man to take the time to do this. It's awesome. I also want to thank from your company, Gilbane Building Company, Christy Dos Reis. Also, Andrew Nota Francesco from the Gilbane office in Harrisburg, Pennsylvania, from WHJJ AM 920 Radio here in Providence, Rhode Island. We thank Jamie Harrington and Bill George for their kind hospitality, and our team at Legends of Success, Michael Parks, Lori Gunder, and each and every week, the intelligent and beautiful Billy Resnick. You've been listening to Legends of Success. I'm John Resnick. We'll see you next week.